Horrorland, the most iconic location in Goosebumps, so much that it has its own sub-series and kind of a second. But everything has a beginning, and that was in today's book, One Day at Horrorland. First up is the iconic original cover. The billboard here is seen right near the beginning of the book, and it's amazing. Obviously, the thing doesn't look exactly like the book's version, and the story is set during the day, but who cares? Even without being in the center frame, your eyes are drawn to the sign, and after reading, you look towards the vibrant horizon to see the park. Not to mention, the slime is one of my favorite colors used yet. The tagline is sinister, enter if you dare, and the back tagline is a bit longer. The next ride might be their last. Scary! Next is the UK cover, and while initially I wondered what this even was, a statue like this does appear in the book, for maybe a paragraph. So the real question is, why did they draw this? Especially when there's so many iconic things to draw. At least the colors are nice. Next is my beaten up copy of the 2000s reprint. Nothing really fun with this one, just a slime color that is opposite of the original but much darker. Lastly, for our single prints is the classic version. Dorman's illustration is of the Ice Cream Man horror, which we see pretty early in the book. In the book, they think black ice cream seems gross, but this cute little bat seems cool to me. The back removes any taglines and just says, Introducing Horrorland. And despite the classic books being made specifically to tie into the Horrorland books, they printed this one along with Dr. Maniac vs. Robbie Schwartz. That should have been their opportunity to do a classic cover for Attack of the Mutant, but oh well. But the best part of being a Horrorland classic print means we get some bonus features. Most of these here are relatively boring though. A guide on getting the most content from the Horrorland series and the website there used to be, and another guide on some tips for the new Horrorland video game. I only had it for the DS. That version wasn't that great. Luckily, we're saved by some splat stats. The horrors aren't very evil, which makes sense, but their strength and attack skills are insane. That doesn't even make sense for this book. I'll have to see what they get up to in the sequels, but there isn't a single time I see one of them use that kind of power. Like many of the iconic books, this one has its own comic adaptation in Terror Trips. Like with Fever Swamp, the story is so faithful it isn't worth making you guys watch a whole section on it. So for certain scenes, I'll put an image up during the summary. And lastly here, I just thought I'd throw in for the hell of it that this is the only episode I actually own on VHS. Complete with this really annoying sticker I just can't get off. Some of these can go for a pretty penny, so I'm glad I've owned at least one since I was a kid. This also shows off that the episode is going to be a two-parter. But before that, we gotta read the book. So let's take our doom slide into the summary. The entire story is told in past tense, which admittedly makes this tense first sentence a lot less tense. As we entered the gates to Horrorland, we had no idea that, in just a few hours, we'd all be lying in our coffins. Our main character is Lizzie Morris, who explains that her family never even meant to go to Horrorland at all. The plan was to go to Zoo Gardens Theme Park, which is the most inclusive name for a trip destination I've ever heard. If only it was Zoo Gardens Museum Theme Park and Emporium, now that would be good. The whole family was here, Mom, Dad, Lizzie, her brother Luke, and his friend Clay. Driving along the desert, they are completely lost, and given that this is the 90s, we got no GPS here. Just a good old map, which they forgot to bring. Luke and Clay start a pinching fight, which becomes too overstimulating for Lizzie, and she shoves back. Dad tells everybody to chill out, to which Lizzie tells him that nobody says that anymore. Am I old? I wasn't even born yet. How could this be? After a bit of pure chaos, a sign appears on the road. Sign for rent. Aww. They must have went the wrong way, so Dad turns the car around and eventually we get back to an area with actual vegetation. Dad pulls over in desperation to try and look for the map again, but just then, Lizzie peeks through the sunroof to see a monster ready to crush the car. It has glowing red eyes and a hungry grin, but it turns out the monster is actually just an elaborate billboard. It reads in big letters, "Welcome to Horrorland, where nightmares come to life. 1 mile." Luke goes rabid asking Mom and Dad if they can go to Horrorland. Clay's scared, but Lizzie explains that if it sucks, they'll just leave. Despite initial hesitation, Mom and Dad realize it has to be better than just sitting here in the car, so off we go. The way to the park is lined with tons of trees. Strange that a theme park would be so hidden. Soon enough, the large purple fence gating Horrorland appears, and this place is enormous. Rides, buildings, and lights as far as the eye can see, and yet the parking lot, despite being just as large, is almost empty. No lines! The same type of billboard from before is placed over the gate, and this time it says, "The Horrorland Horrors welcome you to Horrorland." What the hell is a Horrorland horror? We'll find out soon. The kids practically fly out of the car towards the gate, leaving Mom and Dad in the dust. And then the car explodes. Yeah, no fake out. Their car literally just blew up. Everyone's a little shaken, but Dad, of course, is the one panicking. It was his car, after all. They run to the ticket booth to see a monster with green skin, yellow glowing eyes, and curled horns. A really great costume, Lizzie thinks. Dad begs for a phone, but the horror says that there are none. Dad's calmer than the average man in this situation. He does get angrier, but our monster keeps saying that he would hate for the explosion to spoil their visit, and that they'll take care of them here. Free of charge, no need to care about the transportation. Dad really can't bring himself to enjoy this right now, but the kids begging and Mom vouching for the kids begging means, oh well, at least for a little bit we can stay. Organ music floods the park as we reach our first destination. The sign says, "Welcome to Werewolf Village. Do not feed the werewolves if you can help it." A couple of horrors walk around the park and a gray wolf runs by, but there's no way it was a real wolf, right? Dad believes there has to be a phone somewhere, so he's going to go off to find one. He can't go alone though, so Mom joins him. Now the kids are in their own group. What's the worst that could happen? Well, the gray wolf in front of them might be a problem. It looks so real, but Lizzie's sure it just has to be a robot. The wolf howls at them and leaves, so the group decides to find some other place to go. They see a sign that says no pinching for some reason, and Lizzie pinches Luke in a blatant disregard for the rules. They see another family with a little girl who seems to be crying. Wonder what that's about. Past Werewolf Village, there's a main plaza, and a horror is selling ice cream cones. Black ice cream. Gross! Must be licorice flavored, or something worse. Past more no pinching signs, the group finds a doorway on the side of a purple mountain. The sign says, "Doom Slide. Will you be the one to slide forever?" Inside, there's a ramp going all the way to the top. Plenty of kids are laughing, but they don't seem to see any of them. Another sign reads, "Warning, you may be the one to slide to your doom." Which, frankly, I thought that was the whole point of this thing anyway. Closer to the top, kids are screaming, but it's just too dark to see any of them. Luke realizes this is just one of those slides where you sit on a board and go down. Reminds me of when I was younger. They had these slides, you would sit on a burlap sack and go down. I'm sure they still exist, but it was fun as hell. The horrors at the top confirm that it will be really fast, and also a really long way down. Each slide is numbered from 1 to 10, and the horrors tell them not to pick the Doom Slide. Though they won't tell them which one that's supposed to be. All part of the attraction, right? Lizzie chooses 3 because it's her lucky number. Luke chooses 2 to sit next to Lizzie, and Clay chooses 10 for some reason. Lizzie tries to look back to gauge what the horrors are doing, but the slide drops right away. It's fast, it's fun, it's dark. After a bit, Lizzie can't see either of the boys. Eventually, a chute opens up and everyone falls on their ass back outside. Except for Clay. Where the hell did he go? They assume he must have come out of a different chute and is waiting for them, so they run around to the entrance and nothing. They find a female horror and ask her if Clay came out of the entrance, to which she says no one ever comes out of the entrance, only the chute. So they ask, well, if he didn't come out here, and he didn't come out there, where is he? Well, shit, I guess he picked the Doom Slide. It's gotta be a joke, but the woman says that the signs always warn you, like you have a damn choice. She leaves and they both assume she's just doing her job to scare them, but they still need to find Clay, and Mom and Dad. It's kind of funny to know that this story is still taking place in broad daylight. What I learned from the last book is that everything is scarier at night. But still, at least the Doom Slide is dark. Speaking of which, Lizzie has an idea. If they need to find where Clay went, and he went down slide 10, they'll just go down that slide too. Luke's hesitant, thinking the warning is really true, but that can't be right, so let's go! As they go faster and faster, they hit bumps that make them fly in the air for a few seconds. It goes on forever, making it seem like that warning really was true. Eventually, they start feeling cobwebs on their faces that itch like crazy. A bright light appears ahead, but it's not the exit, it's fire! A literal column of fire is directly ahead of them, and they slide right into it. And past it. Of course they flew right through it. The fire must have been a really cool special effect. After even more sliding, a chute finally opens up and they land on the grass. Back outside, a sign ahead says, "Welcome to Doom, population 0 humans." Clay's right there by the sign and asks them where they've been. Despite just being scared half to death, Luke is just like, the slide was so fun, great effects, Well, it seems the slide put them all somewhere way across the park, and 2 signs for attractions are nearby. Horror Rapids and the House of Mirrors. Luke wants to go to the House of Mirrors, but Lizzie reminds him, shouldn't we find Mom and Dad? Nah, they'll find us eventually, let's have fun. But just then, Lizzie is hit with a shoulder tap by a random horror. He looks around suspiciously and whispers to her to get out while she still can. The horror quickly runs off, and after telling the boys about it, Luke is quick to laugh at how committed the horrors are to this bit. Clay shows a bit of genuine concern, but Luke slaps him on the back and basically says he's a little bitch for even thinking that was real. To the House of Mirrors. The sign reads, "House of Mirrors, reflect before you enter. No one may ever see you again." In the time Lizzie took to read that, the boys already ran inside. The entrance tunnel quickly gives way to the mirrors that line the walls and the ceilings. The boys giggle and tell Lizzie to find them. She bumps into one, falling over in pain, and the boys laugh. Eventually, Lizzie finds another room where even the floor is a mirror now, and the boys stop responding. What happened? Lizzie has now decided that this place is just too scary to be fun anymore, and after a little while in silence, the boys start to giggle again. It was all just a prank. Lizzie makes it to a new room where the walls are just glass, not mirrors, and she sees Luke, but then realizes they aren't actually in the same room, but separated by one of the walls. This seems to confuse Luke, as if that wall wasn't there before. Lizzie tries to meticulously go around the room feeling for an opening, but there aren't any. Somehow everybody is trapped in their respective rooms. To make a bad time even worse, the walls start to slide in. They're all gonna die! Now here's the shortest chapter I've seen in one of these books yet. Each person panics as the walls keep closing in. They're all going to die! Yeah, most of that last chapter was just the kids being scared. Nothing I could really summarize. And just before certain death, a trap door opens up, and just like the Doom slide, a chute opens and pops Lizzie onto the ground. Everyone's okay. Just like before, Luke takes back all of the real fear of death he just had and turns it into excitement. The whole point of the park is to make you think you're gonna die, but you don't. Amazing stuff. Lizzie asks what'll happen if one of the machines gets messed up sometime. What then? And Luke doesn't really know what to say, just that they'll make sure it works. True. I've never seen a big amusement park have things fail before. Luke finds a horror nearby and asks him if anyone's ever died here before. An uncomfortable thing to ask a staff member, but the horror says only once. But he doesn't mean that one person died. He means that you only die once here. No one's ever died twice. Lizzie, realistically, wants some clarification if people have actually died here before, and the guy just walks away. They're all shaken up by that response, but that was the most joke-sounding statement I've heard yet. Again, Lizzie and Clay just want to go find Mom and Dad at this point, but Luke's having so much fun that he says that they'll just make him leave. Too scared to be alone, though, he follows Lizzie and Clay on the trail back to the entrance anyway. They pass by a huge wooden roller coaster that says, "Out of order. Do you dare to ride it anyway?" Luke asks to ride it, but Lizzie and Clay give a firm no, and they move on. A new sign under some trees says, "Beware of tree snakes," and a hissing sound starts to ring out, so they run away. They pass by some statues which aren't that remarkable, but I mentioned them here because they must be what that UK cover was showing. All they do is emit laughter like little gargoyles. Finally, they reach the sign that says, "Front exit. Don't bother. You'll never escape." Funny. I guess it's not actually an exit then. The trail stops on a place called the Bat Barn. Wonder what's in there. Lizzie can see the trail continues past it, so they can quickly run through. As they start running through, though, the door to the exit slams shut, and then the entrance. In complete darkness now, wings start to flutter, and something touches Lizzie's neck. Can't trust anything in this damn park. The whole barn is pitch black, smells like shit, and the bats just keep flying onto the kids. One even gets caught in Lizzie's hair. They scream for help with no response. Sunlight floods the barn. Luckily, Luke just found the door, touched it, and it opened. Cool. Luke is, again, trying to act tough. This time it's really annoying, saying there actually weren't bats at all, just special effects like this is a 4D movie. His evidence is that the bats all disappeared as soon as the door opened, and Lizzie had her eyes closed, so really can't prove that one. Next on the trail, they find a few teenagers getting ready to swim in this nasty brown pond with a sign that says, "Alligator Pond, feel free to swim here." I wouldn't get in there even if there weren't alligators. Finally, the group recognizes the Doom slide and makes it back to the plaza, and Mom and Dad are there. But when they turn around, it's a completely different couple. Damn. Where are they? Lizzie sees two horrors by the Doom slide and asks them if they've seen her parents. After hearing what they look like, the horrors say, "Oh yeah, we saw them. They left a half an hour ago. They wanted to give you a message. Goodbye." One of the horrors doubles down, claiming that they were at the gate when they left, and then they leave with no further clarification. So what the hell now? They're stranded. No parents, no phones. Their only assumption is that the horrors are still all in on one bit. They spend a long while looking for their parents, passing Vampire Village, the Monster Zoo, the Guillotine Museum. They make it all the way back to that nasty brown alligator pond with no progress. At this rate, Lizzie starts to think something real evil is going on here. Maybe the horrors took Mom and Dad and did something. Then hands from behind push her into the pond. Except they don't push her, it's just a simple shoulder grab, you see. Coincidentally, it's their parents. They've been looking for each other this whole time, probably going in a circle, never finding each other. They all really want to leave, and apparently one of the horrors told Mom and Dad that if they want to leave, just come to the ticket booth when they're ready. Seems simple enough. Not knowing the horrors that Lizzie went through, though, Mom and Dad think they should go on one last ride together. They'll find one that takes them to the front of the park, go eat lunch, and then leave. Great plan. Back to passing some more attractions, like the free fall, the only bungee jump without a cord. Maybe too scary for now. Walking along a river with more disgustingly brown water, they see a boathouse with the sign, "Coffin Cruise, a relaxing float to the grave." Now this is perfect. Each coffin canoe can fit one person, so they all get into one and the horrors send them off. It's actually quite relaxing. Nothing will ever go wrong. And yeah, another really short chapter. Everyone has a calm time riding in the coffins, joking around with each other, and then the lid slams shut. This hits on the specific but real fear of being buried alive. There's little air and the coffin is baking in the hot sun. Lizzie panics and starts to pound on the lid. Soon she starts feeling an itching sensation. Spiders! Before she can scream, the lid finally pops open, and there aren't any spiders to be found. Maybe Luke was onto something with that bats thing. Everybody realizes that that ride definitely went a bit too far. Even Luke, who's so scared he can't speak. Once they get off, though, Luke tries to think how they even did all this special effects, but nobody cares. They want to leave. Not even going to stop for lunch anymore. Time to go. They go to the plaza and there's no one here. Not just that, but all the ticket booths are closed. So maybe they can find somebody in the parking lot. Great idea! Lizzie makes it to the gate first and pushes, but it doesn't move. They're locked in! Dad doesn't believe it at first, but Lizzie tries again and there's clearly a ginormous padlock keeping the thing shut. Well, there's gotta be a way out somewhere, and where the hell is everybody? Here they come. Dozens of horrors start to appear in the plaza, marching towards them like the zombies from the Thriller video. What are they gonna do? Seemingly hundreds of horrors appear in the plaza, not speaking a word. Lizzie yells out asking what they want, and a young woman announces herself as the Horrorland MC. She says they can leave, but thanks them first for being on Horrorland Hidden Camera. It's been a live show this whole time. Dad is immediately suspicious. He's never seen the show before. Well, apparently it's on the Monster Channel, but Dad doesn't have cable. For being such great sports, they've given the family a whole new car. The exit is also through this one yellow door. No legal repercussions for blowing up the car, or waivers to sign, but who cares? New car! Lizzie's the first one into the exit, which seems to be a white room filled with bright lights, and when they all get in, the doors shut and the lights go out. Welcome to the Horrorland Challenge. 1 minute to get through the monster obstacle course. Another dirty trick. The voice over the loudspeaker tells them to run, and a giant monster appears. A red-haired, four-armed thing about the size of a gorilla with 2 rows of fangs and purple lips? Everybody starts running for their lives. 2 giant birds, then 6 boars, then a furry snake. So much has happened in the minute they have to run, and it's only been 40 seconds so far. More and more random creatures appear, and what seems like a woolly mammoth is about to crush Lizzie with its foot. When the foot finally gets onto her chest, a loud buzzer starts to sound. Time's up. The MC Horror is back and she asks, "Do we have any survivors?" 3 out of 5. 2 of them are dead? Lizzie sees Luke and Clay across the room. So Mom and Dad died? Cancel that. The voice chimes in to say it was actually 5 out of 5 survivors. Hooray! The family all huddles together and Dad has a gash in his arm. Their fear turns to anger. There's no way they can just do this, even if it's for a show. Too far. The floor starts to slide down and the family's dropped back into the plaza. All the horrors start clapping to congratulate them as winners, but Lizzie's too angry to celebrate. She goes up to the MC and rips her mask off. But it's not a mask. It's real. All the horrors nod and smile as she accuses them of all being real monsters. Well, you see, it's true. Top-rated show on the Monster Channel. Over 2 million monster viewers in the world. Pretty poor reception, to be honest, but maybe that's good for monster TV. They get people just like this family who think Horrorland is just a big joke, but it's serious to them. Dad starts to speak up about how this can't be legal, but then the MC says time is up. Let me show you the way we say goodbye on Horrorland Hidden Camera. The horrors start moving forward, pushing the family towards a sickly purple pond. The MC throws a rock in, and as an example, it gets sucked right down. So will they jump in, or do they have to push them in? At the edge of the pond, Dad starts to apologize for ever bringing them there. It was really the kid's idea, so Lizzie squeezes his hand and says it's not his fault. Eureka! A wild idea, and this is the last chance to try it. She reaches out to the MC and pinches her arm. The MC gasps. It seems all those no pinching signs were there for a reason. Lizzie starts pinching harder, taking away Luke's title as the Mad Pincher. The MC actually starts to deflate like a balloon. The horrors hurry to quickly re-inflate her, but Lizzie tells the others to start pinching. Quickly, a whole bunch of horrors start getting deflated, and in a panic, they all start to run away. Somehow, the gate just got opened, so the family starts running. Then they remember their car exploded. Dad's idea is to commandeer one of these tour buses in the parking lot, so let's hope they left the keys in. The horrors come back to start chasing. Hurry! They scramble into the first bus they see. Conveniently, the doors open, and even better, the keys are there. They shut the doors as fast as they can and hightail it out of there. After a few hours, they finally make it back home. In the light of the full moon, they breathe a sigh of relief, until they notice there was a horror clinged onto the back of the bus the whole ride. He walks up to them slowly and reaches out his hand. Here, we forgot to give you your free passes for next year. This story was amazing. There were, of course, a few short chapters where the only purpose was to improve tension, but those are mainly only an issue for someone like me just trying to give you the story. We get to the park really quickly. The horrors are front and center for the entire thing, and all of the rides are great. Even the ending where they pinch the horrors to deflate is so goofy, perfectly Goosebumps in style. It almost makes you wonder if letting the bus get stolen was a part of the show, just to give them their tickets again. In the general sense, Horrorland in its earliest form doesn't seem too malicious. None of the rides are actually meant to kill you, but without a waiver, this place luckily avoids typical laws, it seems. In the future, we will have a game, a sequel, an entire miniseries, 2 of them technically, just for this place. So the fun at Horrorland keeps on going, but it's over for now, is what I would say, if not for the TV episode adaptation, a classic. And dare I spoil the fact that it has a different ending? Let's see. So we're still in the desert, but there's a ton of seagulls around, so we're actually at the beach. The family's lost with no AC, and you may have noticed that Clay is completely cut out of the episode. Poor kid. They actually have a map this time, but it's not helping at all. Luke yells out how much he really wants to go to Zoo Gardens, so Dad gets motivated. Well, eventually they do start getting fireballs thrown at them. Then a hallucination of a horror floats in the air before disappearing. After spending all the budget on that stunt, they didn't make the original billboard, and so Horrorland is right ahead. Not too hidden in the forest at all. Alright. The parking lot seems just as empty as it should be, and nobody seems to care why there's maybe only one car, and how the place looks really run down. Instead of the car blowing up, a horror comes from under a manhole cover and just puts this tracker, or explosive, or whatever this is, onto the bottom of the car. The horror just lets them in for free anyway, and another one is holding a severed head.
Oh, hello. First time at Horrorland?
Stay off the guillotine ride. Sharp turns.
No talking.
Dad just lets them go on alone for the hell of it, and the horror that warns them to leave shows up.
Get out! While you still can!
We skip right to the House of Mirrors, and Lizzie and Luke both end up in their own mirror room. There's even a creature here. I hesitate to say a horror because it looks nothing like one. He can remove her reflection, I guess, and Lizzie freaks out like it's something actually threatening. Mom and Dad get some punch in these cool dino cups, and the horror, who sounds exactly like Pete, squirts the punch right out of his finger. Cool. The horror lets them know how there's no phones and laughs, as usually parents aren't stupid enough to let their kids go alone in this park. Meanwhile, Lizzie's about to get crushed just like the book until she falls through the void like Squidward. Luke, being his book-like self, really wants to go on another ride, and coincidentally, the coffin cruise is right nearby. Mom and Dad fret over the kids being gone and see some people getting ushered into this horrors-only door. Scary! The coffin cruise is just as expected, though without 3/5 of the cast. The horror running the ride is even a pirate.
Enjoy the ride. It may be your last.
The ride is initially relaxing, and then they get closed in. Luke actually loves it until one single tarantula shows up and scares him. He even says his legs were itchy, but when did the thing ever get down there? Both kids want to leave now and are lost till Dad does the classic shoulder grab. Horrors chase them and we get to the locked front exit and the "No one leaves" sign. A couple of horrors corner them. To be continued. The horrors continue to chase them all the way to that horror-only door, leading right to the MC. Technically in this, his name is Wretch Sniff, but he has a similar role. This is where they reveal the TV show, and there's even a live studio audience. They watch this slow, black and white footage of funny clips, which really aren't entertaining at all, and so ends Horrorland Hidden Camera. In a complete twist from the book, the MC presents a new upcoming game show segment with a car as the prize. Well, they do need a new sports utility vehicle. They get sent back to a stylist who offers them disgusting foods like Booger's Surprise and gives them a boop that doesn't really do anything.
Darling, we're monsters, but we're not monsters.
What a queen. So, time for a raw deal. The family is split parents and children.
Hey, if it's the Morrises versus the Morrises, how can we lose?
It's like Wheel of Fortune, but instead of spinning, you just pick cards with a value on them. The parents do well until they get this far and guess a P. Stupid. The episode actually has in-universe commercial breaks, which are hilarious.
Now, for the first time on one CD, greatest monster love songs. You'll get "Your heart is in my pocket and your lips are in my drawer."
Back to the show, the kids try to solve. It's wrong, so they just lose? I guess you only get one chance to solve. Their consolation prize is a bucket of worms poured on them. But they need that SUV, so Mom tries again, and...
The Morris family is lunch? Dun, dun.
What the hell does that mean? Who knows, but we get another ad for some human toys.
Insist. Put them in water. Throw them in the air. Or just jump up and down on them.
After cutting the deck, they pulled a car. But that was only the chance to get a car in the Horrorland Challenge. And in a let's make a deal move, unlike the obstacle course, we get to choose two doors. One is the car, and the other is Ripper, which is just Saber from Camp Nightmare. Door number 1. It's Ripper. But before we watch a family get killed on live TV, a horror wants to help them out. He's black, and he wants to be the host himself. But Wretch is a nepo hire by being the producer's brother-in-law. Unfortunately, by being so helpful, Ripper gets a bite out of Black, so he's probably dead. The family attempts to stealthily make their way out, but it really doesn't work. Plus, all the horrors sound like wild pigs. Just thought I'd point that out. A hole in the fence is luckily there, so the family gets in the car as the horrors attempt to tear the thing apart. Those splat stats don't seem to apply to the episode, huh? Lizzie screams so loud, constantly. Yeah, it's horrible. A horror tries to put a sign up that the road's closed, but they go right on through. It seems the device under the car was actually a remote control, and Wretch takes over, leaving them on a literal cliffhanger. A horror turns off the TV just as we get another commercial break, and he chills with his wife eating some cockroaches. I think the ending to the episode is brilliant. Of course, in the book, the ending is delightfully innocent, and other than the cuts Dad got, and maybe the plot to throw them in the pit, and maybe blowing up their car, the horrors don't seem too rude. And there's sequels, too. In this one, the horrors are definitely a bit more evil. Maybe. Everything leads them to this show, and you really wonder whether or not it was all a ploy. Did Bleck actually help them escape? Was the fence hole there on purpose? Was the remote control on the car a safety precaution, or always the end goal? There was never a point where the audience seemed to think something was up, so I feel like it was all part of the plan. But who knows? Maybe they won't drive the car off the cliff, and it's just the most traumatizing thing on Earth. Makes for good ratings. In both versions, the legality is the biggest issue. I am a bit disappointed we didn't get to see the Bat Barn or the Doom Slide, but what we got was fine. The budget definitely went to what rides we had and the amazing costumes. Even though the park feels a little more empty than the sprawling megaplex that I'm sure has grown even bigger by today. To be honest, I think the book is better for most of it, but the episode has a better ending. It's just so good. If you only ever watched this episode as a kid, you'd be so surprised to read the book and be like, wait, they escape by pinching the horrors and deflating them like balloons? Feels pretty out of place by the end. We'll be visiting Horrorland plenty of times in the future, and one time maybe even sooner than you think. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe because in 2 weeks we'll be covering book number 17, Why I'm Afraid of Bees.